live on Global 99.5, Cable TV 974, Facebook, Zoom, and the YouTube channel Uplifting Men, Transforming Lives. And so we encourage you to send the link out to your family, friends, whosoever, inviting them to be a part of the radio program. Today, this afternoon, we have a very interesting topic. No guests, and so we have an interesting topic. It's an open line, and we're inviting as many of you on to share your thoughts, your comments. It's a very unique and different program today. And so with that, I say welcome. Also, I want to remind you, or at least share with you some information about a special event that is taking place shortly at the Diplomat Center. There's a free concert, and yes, you heard, a free concert to raise funds for Bishop Walter Hanchel. And they only have seating, I was told, for about 500 persons. So the first 500 persons get there because of social distancing, and the others can join them by their various social media. So that's 5 p.m. this afternoon. I plan to go there, but they say only the first 500 persons who get there will be allowed in. A number of our local famous artists, Christopher Roberts and Friends, Landlord, Edison Sumner, and numerous others. And it's a fundraising event for Bishop Walter Hanchel. As you know, he's in the States. He had a successful surgery done Friday. They have a GoFundMe account, a PayPal account, Cash App, Zelle, and a First Caribbean bank account, Marathon Road. And the account number 130-20630, 130-20630. Okay, 433-6917 is the number you can contact me if you wish any further information, but they're asking persons to support. So I just want to tell you about that. Also, I also want to say to you folks, we want to thank many persons who participated in sponsoring the event. Last week, we were live. We came on late. We apologize for that due to the technical challenges, but we distributed over 600 sandwiches, hot dogs, hamburgers to the persons in the Camp Road community, and 250 bags were given out to the children, okay? A number of bags, gift items were given out to the children in the Camp Road community. Also sharing and participating in us was the Minister of Social Services and Urban Development, Mr. Frankie Campbell, as well as the Commissioner of the Departments of Corrections, Commissioner Charles Murphy, and a number of other persons were there as a part of this event. And so Transforming Lives Prison Fellowship Bahamas partnered together with the Urban Renewal and a number of organizations. And we wish to thank them, MG Rebirth, which is led by my co-host Jackie Gardner, International Men Stay Bahamas Committee, ASI, and numerous organizations partnered with us in the distribution of these gift items for the children, as well as feeding persons within the Camp Road community. And so we look forward to another initiative. It's our second initiative for the year, and we look forward to one more before the year has ended. So folks, I want to welcome you here today. As we talk about our topic, we're going to talk about today on this pre-independence week, we call it. And we want to talk about the freedom. We want to talk about the Bahamas. We want to talk about independence since 1973. What transformation, and that's spiritually, emotionally, financially, educationally, politically, you name it. What transformation has you seen taking place in this Bahamas from 1973 to now? And as we look forward to the future, what transformation do you expect to see 40 years later, whether we are here or not, okay? So let's talk about the transformation from 1973 to 2021. And then what do you see in the future for the Bahamas 40 years into the future? I want to turn it over to my co-host, Jackie Gardner, and then we're going to talk about pre-independence transformation in the Bahamas. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, everyone. Happy pre-independence. I am really happy to be here. It's a beautiful day. It started with the rain, but now the day has evolved into a beautiful day. We have good people in the audience. We have good people on Facebook, Channel 97, Cable Channel 974. We have them in the Zoom room. We have those in the radio land listening to Global 99.5 FM. We're just happy that you're here. And I am happy, David, to be co-hosting with you, talking about a very important subject, talking about independence, freedom, and transformation. Transformation is a big word. So I have some notes in terms of some transformation I have observed in the Bahamas, and I would like to hear from our community. So please, let's make this a conversation. So please get involved. Let us know what has happened from 1973, what kind of transformation you've seen, and what kind of transformation you would like to see. We know the greatest transformation is a transformed life under the power of Jesus Christ. So once again, I am happy to be on Global 99.5 FM on Transforming Lives. I'm glad to be here. So let's get right into it. Right back over to you, the one and only Mr. David Williams.
Yes, folks. Once again, I say thanks as we talk about the transformation from 1973 to 2021. What transformation, as you saying, what we call it, 40 plus years later, and what transformation you'd like to see for 40 years into the future. And so when I look at 1973, and my mind goes back to a little child, I can remember being on the Ford, Jackie.
I was going to ask you, where were you? Yes, let's hear.
Wow, I just gave everybody an idea of my age. Wow. Yes, I was on the fort. I could remember very faintly. I think I remember seeing the flag going up in my I call it my primary school uniform. But when I look at 1973 to 2021 and some of the major things that has taken place in terms of the transformation in a new Bahamas, I know the first thing everybody would think about is the political freedom. And so what at this point, we had the minority when control the seat of power and economically. But interesting now, this is interesting. In 2021, the majority still is in control of the seat of power, but economically, we are not in control. I'll give an example. If one look back at the cabinet then in the 1960s and look at some of the major businesses today, these same persons who at that time sat in the cabinet are some of the same persons today, those who are alive, and if they're not alive, their families are actually controlled. Yes, some of the major wholesales and banks and shipping companies, you name it. So for me, and I'm going to stop here because I want to open it to others who are much older than me or who has better research or memory. So for me, we the majority, we are in the political power, but we do not have the economic power. Jackie, I'm going to stop right there and I want to open it because I know there's some persons here who have far more they can share.
All right, so we're looking for some feedback from the audience. Where were you in 1973 and what could you remember? Maybe that's where we need to start as we wait. So let us know. We're about to open up the mic at this very juncture, very early in the show, so that like we said, it can be a conversation. We don't want it just a conversation between Dave and myself. We want the entire group involved. So I'm going to start off and say what I remember 1973, and then I'm looking for the first person hands up to just let us know. We want to open up the mic and let us know, where you were and maybe what transformation you have observed. 1973, I was like you, Dave, a child. I can remember being in my school uniform, and I could actually remember learning the national anthem. And that was a proud moment because I could remember them practicing that our teacher, especially my music teacher, Miss Hepburn. And it was very important how we pronounced the words, how we stood, because this was a very proud moment in history. So I remember feeling proud, even as a child, feeling very proud. I could also remember at that time I was very dependent on my parents. So as I compare then and now, I had a knowledge of Jesus because very early, my parents had us in church. And I was one of those, a child that very early wanted to love God and serve God and gave my life to God at a very early age. And so I remember being very dependent on both God and my parents. And so now 43, looking forward, 40 plus years later, I'm an adult, still dependent on God, but not as dependent or not dependent on my parents for instructions. Actually, you know, you have a reverse of that rules now. So you tend to be giving advice to your parents at a certain age. So I've seen a total reversal in that regard in terms of my relationship with God is now more one-on-one as opposed to, you know, your parents encouraging you to have that relationship with Jesus Christ. I am independent in that now. I am totally responsible spiritually for navigating that relationship. So remember where I was then in 73 when my parents was more than one urging us to go to church. And I can remember now, you know, I'm independent. I have self-governance in that respect. Financially, so I'm talking a little bit and I'm waiting for the first person to identify himself or herself, and give your contribution. So I spoke about the fact that that's where I was in terms of spiritual development, financially. So we have somebody ready? Financially, you know, I was not working. I was in school and now I am independent, right back to that word. So thankfully, thank God, despite the pandemic, I am still gainfully employed and still able to earn a living, number one, and make a meaningful contribution, because you don't just want to earn a living, you want to be able to make a meaningful contribution to the company in which you're employed. You want to be an asset. So I'm independent in that I don't have to depend on anyone to provide for me. God has blessed me in that today, 40 years later, I'm gainfully employed. So I don't know if anybody, I don't want to be a one-way conversation. Anybody can tell me where they were, where he or she was 40 years ago. What was happening in your life?
Okay, while we're holding on questions, and if you decide to, you can just simply unmute your mic and speak, and I'll shut up. I think about some of the things. I see we have NIB, which has benefited us as a people. I see we have COB, we have our own college. So I'm just trying to think of some of the things then, you know, that we have today, which has made a difference. So like I say, these are two things that stand out in my mind: the national insurance and the College of the Bahamas. I don't know if anybody else can share with us some things that they can think of, 1973, and now 40 plus years later, 1973. Or if, like we say, if you could think of how or what would you like to see a new Bahamas like 40 years from now? While they're waiting, for me, 40 years, I'd like to see definitely the economic power be in the hands of the majority. I'd like to see more Bahamians in terms of placing a lot of emphasis on education. Of course, the spiritual education is always first and foremost, and that's in terms of persons claiming their personal relationship. Because if I had to look back then to now, let's look at it from a spiritual perspective. Today, people have since, through Jackie, in my opinion, gone away from what we call the old-time religion. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Just before I came here, I was through Oxford Avenue between Market Street and Beale Road. And there on the streets was a young man preaching and sharing the gospel. And about 3 or 4 other young men were sitting there, you know, just listening to him. And I thought about it. And I say, wow, many years ago, we can recall they had these, what they call the old time street meetings. Now today, we are comfortable in our church pew and, you know, as opposed to going onto the streets to meet persons. So when I think about 73, and when I think about now, I can think about that's one of the things that has, and I'm talking about, I haven't seen street meetings now for so many years, for the last 20 years, you know, but growing up, that used to be a regular thing, you know. But folks, like I said, I don't want to do all the talking. Jackie, don't share with us some of the things you think of 1973 to 2021 as we talk about independence. What would you like to see the Bahamas transform to for the future? What has transformed in the past? Talk to us about freedom as we look at 1973 to 2021 in the future.
Well, I see while I'm speaking, I see my sister has just joined. So I'm going to put her on the spot, Daphne Gardner. So I'm going to put you, Daphne, I'm going to be calling you next. tell me what you were doing in 1973. I know you're not going to leave your sister here talking all alone, so please step right up. But I just, Dave, you mentioned in terms of the atmosphere, the religious atmosphere and environment. God has always been big within our society in the Bahamas. We're known as a religious nation. As a matter of fact, I'm not certain, 100% certain, what is all it entails in that religious nation, what it means. But do you think the fact that you're not seeing any or not as many street meetings? Because I mean, sometimes, when we judge things, more can be happening from a religious perspective, but it should just be people are doing things differently. I went to church on Sabbath, and at the particular church, it was youth day, and they were talking about the fact that some time ago, certain type of technology was not welcome in the church, right? It was seen as if, like television and certain things were seen as if that's worldly. But today, in light of the pandemic, that is all, that has changed. So right. I'm wondering, you just made the statement in terms of street meeting. Do you think the Bahamas is less spiritual now as a result of not having street meetings? Or is it possible that there has been a change in the mediums being used to bring the gospel? So I'm going to let you speak, and then I'm going to tell Daphne to get ready to say 1973, what she was doing and what kind of transformation she's seen in the Bahamas. So Daphne, get ready. So Dave, your feedback on that.
I will simply answer, Jackie. I think we have gone away from going to the people. That's the principle. However, whether it's the street meetings or whatever it is, many years ago, we went to the people. But today, the transformation I have seen taking place is that we no longer go to the people. We waiting for the people to come to us. That's my response.
That's interesting. And you think that's as a result of progress?
No, no.
Why do you think
no? I think we have regressed. No, progress. We have regressed. We're going back.
Okay, all right. I heard you. Daphne, you're there?
Yes.
All right. Go right ahead, Daphne.
Okay, the first...
Your mic is still mute. Okay, there you go.
Okay, well, good afternoon, one and all.
Good evening.
I just joined and I caught the tail end of Lyndon speaking about street meetings. And I remember back in the day when we had street meetings, and we used to have quite a number through our old corner, but for some reason we feared those street meetings, because normally they would say if someone come through your corner to have street meeting, next thing you know, someone is going to die or whatever, right? So we were afraid of it, but now it's not as popular. It's not as popular as it was back then, but we probably need to get back to some of those street meeting type services. Another thing I remember back in 1973, the climate was a little different. We used to play games outside, like how it's summertime. You looked forward to the neighborhood children playing in rounders, socking, parking, all those different things. I know even my brothers used to play jackstones, but my niece, I'm trying to teach her now how to play jackstone. She's 9 and she don't even know about playing, jackstones. At that age, we were almost professional jackstone players. We were able to play those things. And then I remember the Coca-Cola movies and stuff like that, buying all kind of Coke sodas. So you could get a cap. I think inside some of those cap, you could get a free movie from the Wolfroad Theater, I think.
Yes, yeah, I
Right.
remember.
Yes. So I remember, even if you didn't want to drink soda, you would just buy it, not knowing that, hey, the money you spend on the sodas, you could pay for your ticket. But as a child, you look forward to those things. Participating in those type things. I remember going downtown and watching the guys dive in the water for quarters from the tourists. They would throw stuff in the water. You remember those days? You go downtown. So what I noticed that, hey, the children these days, they have other things that occupy their time. We spend more time outdoors. They're spending more time indoors. So
That's correct.
we have lost that generation to know how to go outside and fellowship with the neighbors and stuff like that. We knew everyone through the corner. Now
Yes, that's correct.
the neighborhoods that you live in, you might know the neighbor next door, but you don't know everyone on your street.
So, that's interesting observation. So relationship, Andrea, I see you in my audience, my good friend from Bahamas Academy. I'm going to be calling on you shortly, so I'm going to call on person Sue at the end of the day. I know it all will be well. So Andrea, get ready to make your contribution once I make my comment. Daphne, thank you so much for that contribution. I mean, you took me down memory lanes for true, but let me ask you this, and then Andrea, please get ready. In terms of relationships, do you really think that we have transformed our relationships? Have been there have been a downgrade or deterioration in relationships, or we formed different kinds of relationship? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Are people not as close as they used to be back then, or it is that people are close, but they're, instead of going outside to play, they're now connected via technology? What do you think about that?
They are not. I honestly believe that they are not as close as what they were back then, because back in the day, you go to a party, everyone's sitting down, talking, conversating with each other, right? Now you go to a party or a gathering, maybe 75% of the persons, instead of they communicating with you, they're communicating with their cell phones. They're reading their messages and stuff like that. So when you compare the two basic generations and stuff like that, we have lost that personal touch.
Oh, thank you. Dave, you wanted to say something?
No, only thing I would say is just to remind those who coming in, who just joining us, that we're talking about independence from 1973 to 2021, what transformation has taken place in all levels in every area, and how do you see a future Bahamas 40 years later?
Thank you. Andrea, you're there? Unmute your mic, Andrea. Thank you.
Yes, Jackie, I'm here.
I know you always have something important to say. You've been through a lot since 1973. Tell us from your viewpoint, how has life changed for you, or what transformation have you observed in this beautiful Bahamas?
Life has changed tremendously. I was 9 years old at that time, and now I'm almost 60 years old, so that's changed a whole lot. And when we were small, at 9 years old, we played in the yard. The yard was, the road. The road was our field, our play field. We played hopscotch, we played marbles, we played pocket with the children through the corner. Everybody knew each other, like somebody had mentioned when I came on. We knew every neighbor knew the next one. You didn't have time to get in trouble. We instead of watching TV, sometimes you watch TV, but you had to go down the road to watch the TV and stand up and look through the people's window because they leave the window open, so we could stand up and watch, because we didn't have a TV. And even then, the TV that we watched was a black and white TV. It was a big TV. I mean, you couldn't lift it. Like now you have flat screen TVs and things like that. That has changed also. You have, everybody knew each other. You didn't have killing and shooting and raping. If you hear those things, you were shocked because that wasn't something you even heard of. And sometimes I wonder if when I was small, did they used to have those things? But you know they had them, but you never heard about it because it wasn't that common. But now children don't play hopscotch. They don't shoot marbles like you used to, and porking or socking, whatever you want to call it. When in the street, they don't do that anymore. The streets, there's so many cars around the place. You better try to stay on the streets now. Everybody got flat screen TV and with remote. When the people got up to turn the TV, you want to turn it off or turn the channel, they have to get up and go to the TV and turn and all that. Now you get remote for everything: remote fan, remote air conditioning, remote TV for TV and all of that. And people are not as friendly as they used to be. And you don't know, and I heard someone, because I was sitting down thinking the same thing, you don't know, I don't even know the names of my neighbors. That's a shame. But I mean, back then you knew everybody, and the neighbors don't seem like they want to know who you are either. You have to go your way to meet them these days. Killing, if you don't hear about a killing or something bad, it's almost like the news ain't interesting no more because ain't nothing hot happened last night. I mean,
Wow.
when we were young, nothing happened. You never used to hear about these things. So things have changed, and everybody into cell phones. Oh, back then too, you had a phone which you had to take your finger and push it through the hole and ring it around and for it to ring. But now cell phone and everybody got camera on their phone. So things have changed tremendously, a whole lot. It is not the days like how it used to be. It has changed a whole lot. Okay.
Oh man, a mouthful. Thank you so much, Andrea. So we want to know if these changes are better. I mean, are they for the better, for the worse, or some for the better, some for the worse? What do you think? Some of the changes for the better, for the worse? And while I'm having this conversation with Miss Linden, I'm put Mr. Alberto on notice that he's next. Go right ahead, Miss Linden.
I think
you
some
said
of
it's
them,
better or worse?
Some of them are for the better. Let me start from some of them. Some changes are for the worse. For example, our children don't play as much as they used to play. So now, besides when the government talk about 80% of our population is obese or overweight or obese, that includes the children. Our children are now coming down with diabetes and high blood pressure and all these non-communicable diseases. You never hear about children having these things because now all our children do is we feed them with fast food, which is killing them or causing them to get ill. And then they're not as active as they used to out there in the sunlight and the fresh air. And so they're becoming overweight and coming down with all these chronic diseases. So that's not a good thing at all. We need to send them outside and let them play outside instead of sit down all day and play on those gadgets and different things. They watch TV a whole lot. A lot of times now the children are, because of the challenges with parents finding jobs or have to work, and the children are not in school because of COVID and all sorts of things, they're getting themselves in all sorts of trouble. And then a lot of our children are now a number of them are being abused. And there's different types of abuse, and our children are being taken advantage of. They're becoming frustrated. They're becoming angry. I was in an area the other day, and the children, when you listen to them talk, their job, their task, they feel as if is when they grow up, I am going to take revenge for my daddy who got killed, or I'm taking revenge of my cousin who got shot. And these are children in primary school, and you never hear children talk like that in our days when we were growing up, and even when you play dollhouse, it was an innocent thing. It was something that dollhouse ain't innocent no more. A lot of things have changed. Now one thing I know that changed for for the best is, okay, the government said that we cannot go to church. I mean, initially we couldn't go to church, and they closed down the church and all these things. That was a bad thing. But then that was reality. That we didn't have no control over that. But what I found out is now when we used to have prayer meeting back then, hardly anybody came to prayer meeting, a handful of people came to prayer meeting. Now I go on prayer meeting on Zoom. On Zoom, and you have 100 and something people on prayer meetings for 6 a.m. in the morning. The devil thought he had us, but guess what? God, it backfire on him. He allowed the church to close down, hey. And like I was telling somebody, they say, I miss going to prayer meeting, and prayer meetings used to be so good, nice to hear, but guess what? We used to have 5 people to prayer meeting, sometimes 4 people to prayer meeting. But now that we have Zoom, you have 100 and something people going to church when they didn't even used to go back then. A lot of people are now going to church. They're in their homes, but now the churches are in the homes. And so that is a blessing. That is a positive thing and people get up religiously for those 6 o'clock prayer meetings. And so they wouldn't get up some time ago, they wouldn't get up and drive and go to the church and sit up in prayer meeting, but now they're in their homes, but they're enjoying prayer meeting and they praying and enjoying the whole thing, getting their blessing. So that's a positive thing.
Well,
my mouth tired now.
You said a mouthful. Mr. Elwood, are you there? We want to hear, okay, open up your mic. We want your contribution to the conversation, to the discussion. We're talking about independence, 1973 to now, 40 plus years later. What kind of transformation have you seen from where you sit?
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Yeah, I just started tuning in maybe 20 minutes or so. And the lady who just spoke, and I think the previous lady, they pretty much they took me back in memory lane, I spinning top and shooting marbles and my bicycle. My bicycle was my thing. Oh, I love my bicycle. I love to be in the road prancing. We used to get together as neighbors and somebody have a big speaker. They bring speaker outside because I grew up like in Angliston. And,
music.
I could remember the speakers outside. That's where I learned how to dance. My dance move came, a young man growing up through Angliston, and you got to be outside in the neighborhood. You didn't have to worry about the gunshots and fellas coming through like to rob you and all those kind of things. But those days, like when I think back, they were really, really, really good days. That's when neighbors were like neighbors. That's when a neighbor cooked, you could almost say that you're gonna get something, you're gonna taste what she cooked and vice versa. So when I look at the total picture, I see so much good, like was just referenced to, like with the Zoom and all the like technology is really good. I mean, the technology today will blow your mind. Like the cell phone alone, if we knew how powerful cell phone alone, just the cell phone, you could communicate with somebody in Jabim right now at the drop of a dime, a split second. You could take a picture of yourself, a selfie, and send that around the world in a split second. So technology has really come a long way, and that's good. But I believe like one of the cons in the whole thing is that we've moved away from that village concept, that village idea, where my son down the road is misbehaving. Mrs. Jones or Mr. Jones know that they could discipline, they could deal with my son and don't have to worry about me getting in their face and want to fight them or what have you. If I don't have sugar, I could go next door to my neighbor and I got sugar. If I'm short on rice, I could get rice. You know what I'm saying? So that village concept, that village idea, I think is what is lacking now. And hence, we have these criminals. I'm running. They are together. They understand what it means to be like united. So as a people, as a nation, as a country, we have moved away from that. But the criminal element, they are working in tandem. They are working as a unit, and because of that, they are. I wouldn't say that they are winning, but they are winning in a lot of instances. You know what I'm saying? They are really getting away the murders, the house break-ins, and all the negative ills that we find in our society. I believe it's because we have moved away from that village idea, that village concept. You know what I'm saying? So yes, from 73 to now, I think we've made some amazing strides, really good improvement technology wise. And you know what I'm saying? And like the Bible tells us, you know, you have the, you know, like generation, they're wiser, but they're weaker. And I believe the weakness comes because, again, like I said, we moved away from that unity. We know that unity is strength. And because we're not as unified as we used to be, hence divided, we're falling. You know what I'm saying? So I am excited to be alive in this time. You know what I'm saying? This is the most exciting time, like, to be alive. You gotta, anything you want to know, you could use the same cell phone or your laptop, your iPad, and you could get any information, any idea come in your mind. You could go and Google, you could research. It's not like back in the day, you had to go like in the library, you had to get like encyclopedias. I mean, you had needed like 1 million books. I mean, we could just at the snap of a finger or at a click of a mouse or a couple taps on your phone, we could just get information. So we're living in an exciting time, but I believe the downside of it is we have moved away from that unity, that village concept. Even in this time right now, like COVID, I've been thinking about it and thinking about how so many persons lost their jobs and husband and wives and so forth and so on. That village concept would have really stepped in. I mean, like, really worked out well. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, because people would be there for each other, and you would know and don't have so much pride and feel as if you have to suffer in silence. But because you know that your neighbor is there for you, it makes the burden so much lighter, so much easier. So yes, great time we're living in, but the one downside, I mean, there's a few of them, but the one that I'm thinking about right now is that village idea, that village concept that we've moved away. If we could get back there, I think we would be so much better.
Okay, sorry. Yes, what I agree with a lot you shared as we talked about 1973, 2021. I want to call on my good friend, Dr. Macmillan. As you share with us, take us back 1973 to 2021. What changes, what improvements you have seen in the Bahamas, and what does the future, or what future you hope are you looking forward to in the Bahamas in 40 years from now? Dr. Macmillan.
Thank you very much, Dave. I think that this is a very important and, of course, timely subject, saying that the Independence date is right around the corner. I am one that was as old as some of you are when the change took place. What that means is that I know all that was spoken of, playing in the street, knowing the neighbors and everything. That's the way it was in those days. However, when the desire for independence came along, and with Pindling and Butler and all the others who led out, I was right there on those those meetings on the Southern Recreation Ground. I mean, it was something else. Okay. Now, what I want to share was that, remember, it was the majority that was trying to get to rule themselves.
Right.
And we were conscious that there were persons who thought that Bahamians couldn't do it, that we couldn't survive trying to be independent and so forth. But like Pindling and all the others and myself involved, and let me mention an aspect that comes to mind that maybe nobody else could mention. Our church, right, and most churches at that time, we were controlled by the headquarter church outside of the territory.
Okay.
But the Bahamas, our church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, we had already transitioned to local leadership. I'm mentioning that just to say that we supported the national independence concept and movement all the way we did. I think of Pastor McKinney, who was then our leader, and I was right by his side. Then there were other churches who hadn't moved that far as yet. Of course, we had independent churches going, like the Jumper Church, as we used to call it, and others, you know, and bishops who led out, Bahamian men now. So
Right.
now, why I'm mentioning that was there was a strong pushback on us
Okay.
being independent.
Uh-huh.
But Pindling and the leaders then, myself as local leaders then, we said, even if we have to catch fish and grow our own stuff, we would be independent. And there
Wasn't
were
your
those,
brother part of the first cabinet or something?
oh yes, he was, right.
Right.
He was a part of that first group and leading out. This is critical because it would not have happened. Now the other side, and I hope no one will feel funny over this, but like the County Joes, right, who were supposed to be the people that were controlling the economy and everything else, they thought that the black man like Pindling and the rest of us could never do it.
Okay.
But we were determined, the people voted, and of course, England by that time was prepared to give independence. And so we got it. I was there on the fort when the flag was raised, like was mentioned already. And I don't think that there was a moment in my life that I was more proud than that. Singing the national anthem and learning it by Timothy Gibson. Whew. I mean, I'm still thrilled. Goosebumps come over me on that. But when the change was made, you may not know this, but many of those white folks left. They left the Bahamas. They said it would not make it. It would not exist long and all of this. I had a neighbor that lived right across from me, a big spread in that Nottage estate. And it was a nice place. When we became independent, he disappeared. He sold out and he went. There were many like that. But we were determined in our sphere of religion and in other spheres that we as Bahamians, we would be independent and it would be successful. So on the political front, it has been. On the economic front, you know that this is something, a burden I have to share with our folks who are 3 generations from slavery, how to build an economic legacy. Now, that's what's missing with us, right? That's what's missing. And let me mention this. What was known in our day before this, when the black Bahamian became rich, when I say rich, was making money,
yes,
he had a whole heap of sweethearts.
Oh.
And before you know it, he was broke again.
Oh.
Listen, that was the big
That's
thing.
serious.
Oh yeah, very serious, my sister. You see, they were making money. They did well. I remember some in my neighborhood. But when the ladies saw that, the man, instead of having his family and building his legacy, he had 2 and 3 homes. He supported the sweetheart. He supported his home, and it couldn't make it. They couldn't do it. Whereas the County Joes didn't do that. The County Joes kept everything in their sphere. This is what we need to learn more than anything else, in my opinion, based on my experience. We can do it. We can build a legacy, but you can't mix it. You can't have 2 and 3 homes. You can't have a sweetheart. When you look, you're going to Miami and you're spending $10,000 with this lady, and you have to, it can't work. So if we want to build that legacy in economy, then I think we need to have that self-discipline. We need to know how to manage the finances. All the other things have gone well. We have our own pilots, right? Who fly our own Bahamas Air. You could imagine how we felt when we had Bahamas Air pilots. We in every other sphere, we are doing well. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have persons who have held their own. We are even contributing to other countries abroad. Like I had to be, you know, I wish I could have remained at home, but they wanted me at another headquarters to share. And we have many Bahamians like that. So I feel on this independence, we can be proud of where we are. As far as the crime is concerned, I don't know if some of you would remember this. I remember when television came to Nassau, when we got our own station and all of this. But on those stations, there were the guns. They saw everything that was going on elsewhere. And that's when the uptick happened in all the crime. So with the good came the bad, but we still have the principles like this show. This show, now, Dave, you know I support this show. I think it is good. It is good for the community. It gives information that people can listen to and follow. And things like this will make our country be strong and will maintain its independence. And not to leave out the spiritual side. We have always been strong there, right? Reverend Brown and all the bishops in the Anglican Church, they were Bahamians. Gomez and in the Catholic Church, I still remember when the Catholic Church chose its first Bahamian bishop.
Okay.
You see, so in every area we have made progress. We should be proud, and we should handle the negative parts that was mentioned, and we're going to be okay.
Wow.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mark. I'm glad I asked you because that was a lot of history that you shared aside I did not know. I appreciate that.
Well,
So I guess
Dave, you were spot on because I was trying to send him I sent him a message in the chat asking him please to get involved, but he probably didn't read my message. So I'm so glad that you did ask because that was a whole lot of meaningful information.
Yes. So I guess we want to open up for others who want to share 1973 to now, the Bahamas 2021, from 1970 to 2021, how we have changed, how we have transformed, and what would you like to see in an independent Bahamas 40 years later? Keith, I see my good friend Keith. Keith, Cox, I can call on you if there's nobody else. I know you're shy to talk. Keith, talk to me, Keith. Talk to us. Keith?
Hey, Dave, how y'all doing?
We're good.
Happy independence to all of the Americans or descendants from America in the house today. And if I don't get to hear from you all again, I'm happy independence, Bahamas. I was a part, but I was a little boy in 1973. So I knew all what Macmillan was saying. Pastor Macmillan, no disrespect, sir. And cultural aspect of it, it bothered me a couple, I think it was yesterday, when they made, and I heard that they're making plans to do the celebration of independence, and they have no Bahamian artists performing.
Unbelievable.
That is unbelievable whatsoever, to the highest degree ever.
Unacceptable.
And we don't have our people in it, man. Come on, man.
So who's performing, Keith? You say no Bahamians. Who's performing?
They have a choir, but the choir is singing American songs. No typical Bahamian artists. And we have thousands and thousands of good artists. Artists that represent the country from Bahamian to all of the other secular and then you get spiritual artists like Nehemiah Hill and Najee Dunn and Sweet. We just have a cadre of artists.
Sweet Emily.
With these people, what happened to the John Canoe? What happened to the rake and scrape? Where have we gone? Please tell me what happened.
I totally agree. I don't know all the background to it, but I see that there is a lot of feedback coming from Bahamians and from many of the musicians. So it's very topical at the moment.
Yeah. So for me, I've been Russian and John Canoe from 1979 to now. I don't miss a parade. I'm a Valley boy. I hope I have some more Valley boys found in the house. But I've been Russian from 1979 up to the present. Up to the year before last, when we were permitted to rush, I rushed in John Canoe. I'm a fan of John Canoe, and I don't. Some people say it's secular, some people say all other stuff, but I don't get into all of that. I think it's cultural, so I do it. Right. So that's one thing that's not upsetting me, but I really disagree with that. But the other stuff, the country has evolved. I remember a couple of years in the religious sector when BFM was coming about, and they was calling BFM occults. I don't know if you remember this stuff. Maybe
Yes, I
Mark,
remember.
Mark,
I do
Mark,
remember. It was new.
Oh.
Mhm.
okay. And so now there are different churches coming up all around the country, a lot of different things coming up. You understand? And so that we have overgrown that as a country, as a people, not because we're not of your religious belief that it can't happen. So I
Right.
think we've matured that in that aspect when it comes to that. We've been having from 1970 having great sportsmen. Andre Ayton, if you watch basketball, a couple in the playoff. In fact, Andre Ayton is going to the championship. He's the Bahamian, and he
Yes.
hit the buzzer shot a couple nights ago.
So I heard. Yes.
And so
Yes.
the Bahamians are making good impact. Shanae Miller haven't been beaten in a very long, like last 4 years running the 400. We have athletes, we have baseball players, we have basketball players. So the Bahamas is represented all around the world, which is a good thing, a very good thing. So we are proud people. I am a proud Bahamian. My philosophy about the Bahamas, and I'm going to end with this: born, raised, and hope to die in the Bahamas. I don't want to die in nobody else's country. I don't want to die. If I could die, let me die home in the Bahamas. That's my philosophy in Bahamas. That's how much I'm in love with the Bahamas. Born, raised, and hope to die right there. I know eventually I will die. So again, happy
Great
independence to all happy independence to all of the American descendants, and happy independence, Bahamas.
Great point.
Well, thanks. Yes, thanks very much. I don't know if we got anybody else who want to share, take us back down memory lane, because boy, Pastor Mark really opened up some stuff for me. I was glad that he shared. Anybody else
Yes.
want to take us
It's been a
down
very
memory
interesting.
lane?
It's been a very
Yes.
interesting discussion day. Before you go, I mean, someone noted something in the chat that they brought up in terms of what they would like to see in terms of transformation moving into the future. The individual says that they would like to see us, and I think it's a very potent point, producing more of our foods. Now, I know that they have the backyard gardening, and I see more persons are doing that. And so, I mean, I want to just put in a plug for that. It's something that I want to personally get involved with, to be able to produce some of my own food in my own little backyard, if I can call it that. And so I want to encourage more Bahamians as you listen to us. I think we've done well in many different areas, but definitely I think that is a particular area that we need to give more focus on if you truly want to be an independent person, independent country, trying to produce more of our food. So I'd like to highlight that. I want to say thanks for the person. I think it was Daphne who contributed that. And I just want to leave it with our Bahamian people. Back to you, Dave.
Yes, so folks, we're talking about the Bahamas, right? And 1973 to 2021, have we improved? What changes, what transformation you have seen, and what would you like to see 40 years later? So I just want to open up again.
And I think that right there set it off with him. Because he heard her when she said that. Yeah. Yes, it's possible. He said, not me.
Hi, I think we have somebody's mic accidentally open.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, you're right. So, folks, yes, anybody else want to share as we talk
Good
about?
Evening.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. I'm Elder Dave and certainly Sister Jackie. Good evening,
evening.
Bahamas, and certainly all of colleagues that are on. Anthony Sands here. Just wanted to make a point, please, as you get ready to close. Wonderful program today, and certainly all of the comments that went forth, food for thought for all of us. But for me, I think 40 years later, we've made some great strides as a country.
Yes.
When we look at some one or two things, the development, let's look at the hotel industry and all of that. I think the modernization in terms of businesses and access of information. I was thinking about knowledge and training that's been provided for us. A lot of our countrymen and women, of course, have the ability to qualify themselves because information is so accessible. But I look at the downside, because I heard someone made a statement the other day. Even as we look at scriptures, the Bible talks about in the last days, men will be lovers of self, ungrateful, unholy. Okay, and so I think we have a lot of our people that are ungrateful. And someone made a comment some years ago that a deprived people is a more committed or devoted people, and I think that's something we need to think about. And when we look at countries around the world where individuals do not have as much as what we believe we have in this country or this nation, you don't see that much crime. And you see those individuals are grateful for what has been provided for them. When we look at this nation has come from far. But when we look at our people, they're not taking advantage or full advantage of what's been provided for them. I've been working on numerous amount of jobs. And I'll tell you this, and of course, no disrespect to the expats, but we have persons who may not have citizenship. Those individuals are prepared to go further. They are prepared to do more. And so the indigenous Bahamian certainly has a lot to look at and take note from. We can learn from a lot of these individuals who come here because they know that they are disadvantaged. They are prepared to do more to catch up. And so that's my encouragement for our people. And that's my hope that we will become a more appreciative people, take advantage of what it is that we have. God has blessed this little nation. And certainly we
I think he ended up in a mute state, but I think we got the essence. Mr. Anthony, I think you're in a mute state, but we got the essence of what you're saying, that we ought to be a bit more grateful. Dr. Macmillan, you want to say something?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. But let him finish.
Okay, you're back in? Okay, he's back in. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say that because, I think our people can become more grateful and take advantage of what it is that God has provided for us here in this nation. Okay, I want to close with this point. When we were growing up, right, and this is from the religious aspect now, when we were growing up, there were always a lot of churches, okay, in our communities. When we look in the communities now, there's much more churches, right? But back then, the ministries of those churches, we're just talking to someone for this today. The ministries of those churches were always had this out focus. In other words, if you said that God called you to establish a church in this particular community, you were concerned about that community, winning that community for Christ. You cared for them. You provided food and clothing or whatever it needed to be. You always knocking on doors. I think someone touched that point earlier. So when we look at churches now today, right? Their focus are no longer outward. Their focus are now inward. We're dealing with the people who we have inside, and we could care less about the community around us. I was looking today, sharing with my wife. When we look on my street, and I'm talking about less than a quarter mile on one particular road, there's like 5 different churches. Wow. But you're talking about a crime-ridden area, right? And I'm saying if every one of us would just walk on our doors and let's just be responsible for just a circle, just a block, 1 or 2 blocks. Listen here, in this nation, we will shut down crime. We will almost, chase the enemy out of town. If we take a stand for God and do what we're supposed to do in those communities where we say He had placed us, our focus need to be on the outside, just like Jesus said to His disciples, go, not stay in here and deal with the people inside here, but go out there, get to know who those persons are, find out what their needs are, and be prepared to meet those needs with the resources that God has provided, especially His word. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the time.
I think Dr. Macmillan wanted to make a comment before we end.
Yes, I just wanted to comment on the back of the last comment and warn our fellow Bahamians as we move forward in continuing independence to avoid the black crab syndrome. You know what that is? The black crab syndrome is where they pull down each other and don't want to see them prosper or get higher. If we ever get rid of that and support our own, if someone is doing well, if he opens up project or business, support it, support it. As I've heard many times, you don't have to go to Miami. Go to Miami for a trip. We're not, but we're saying support our Bahamian people and let them be successful. And then the person in charge, manage your money, don't keep sweetheart, just support one family and you'll make it.
A great way to end. Great, excellent point, sir. The one and only Mr. Dave Williams. I'm going to make my final comment in the interest of time. I was happy to be the co-host of this program. I've learned a lot. Thank you so much for your feedback, your comments, and on this very beautiful Sunday, I want to wish you the best of Sunday ever. Back over to the one and only Mr. David Williams.
Thank you, Jackie, for swelling up my head. The one and only Mr. David Williams. Wow, I appreciate that. That's what co-workers and partners for. Folks, you've been listening to this program, Transforming Lives. I saw the takeaway from this program is let us stay away from the black crab syndrome, so support each other. I want all of us to look at that as a takeaway today, that if Dave is doing well, support Davis, Elwood, Anthony Sands, whoever, Keith Cox, whoever, Patrice Delancey, whoever. If that individual is doing well, let's support that individual. Folks, you've been listening to Transforming Lives on Global 99.5, Cable TV, 974, Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, Uplifting Men, Transforming Lives. I want to remind you, there's a gospel concert in honor of Bishop Walter Hanchel at the BFM. Begins at 5 p.m. They say the first about 500 persons can get in free. The others will have to watch it via the social media. And so I'm encouraging you to go down to support that effort. We end this program the way we always end it, by reminding you that there's nothing more important than your personal relationship with Jesus Christ. On this program, we don't criticize, we don't condemn no denomination, because we recognize that your relationship with Jesus Christ is important just as my relationship. And we recognize that at the end of the day, that will be the only thing that will matter. When this life would have come to an end and everything is over and done with, where will you spend eternity? This week coming, we'll be funeralizing a 96-year-old lady, a very good spiritual mother, friend of mine. But the only thing that will matter among all the great things that has been done is her relationship with Christ. Dave Williams, Jackie Gardner, Transforming Lives, encouraging you on Global 99.5 to have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Blessings.